Hey Worship Leader, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to dive right in and build a preset from scratch with the HX Stomp. So grab your guitar and follow along. We are going to build specifically a dual amp preset because I just released 2 dual amp presets with the EXPANSE pack. So if you want to get the EXPANSE pack, if you don't know what that is, it's an ever-growing collection of presets. You pay once, you get updates for life, and I update it all the time. And I just put 2 custom brand new presets in there. They are dual amp presets, and we are running wet effects into those. They're custom IRs, and there's a bunch of stuff in there. Go check it out. But I want to build them from scratch without IRs. We want to do it as if you don't have any of that and you're just using stock stuff. And I think we can get good tones. I haven't done this yet, so this is literally from scratch. So what I want to do first is I want to pick some amps, and I know not all these amps have the same amount of DSP, but our tone comes from the amps. So I want to start there. What I mean by the DSP problem is some of these amps take up a lot of DSP, and since we're using 2 of them, we might have a problem. So we want to make sure we grab an amp that doesn't have too much DSP. One of the lowest DSP amps there is in here is the Jazz Rivet 120. Let's go to amp and cab. Boom. And I think we can beef this up a bit, but I use this one all the time because it's so nice. I use this one all the time in tutorials. That sounds pretty good. I'm gonna bring the channel volume down. I'm gonna bring the mids up on this and bring a little bit of the bass down. I don't know, I kind of like that. I kind of like that sound. Let's do that. Let's come over here to the microphone situation and let's pick a bit of a darker mic, but we'll keep it close to the front. That is pretty dark. Let's low cut this a bit. Now that's too dark, so what I want to do is account for that on the amp here. I want the warmness of that Jazz Rivet microphone and just bring some of the presence back. I'm trying some of these darker, boomier mics. This 438 ribbon here is one of the boomier mics, and then if you like the tone of that, you can get rid of some of the low end by bringing it further away. See, that's pretty nice. I like that. I'm gonna save that, and then I'm gonna copy and paste this. Copy, paste, bring this down on a parallel path, and what we're going to do is go to the Y splitter here, balance A all the way to the left, balance B all the way to the right, and mimic that over here in the mixer block. Now we have true stereo. Now there's nothing telling us it's true stereo until we put a reverb in here. So let's go to one of my favorite reverbs. Make sure it's stereo, and the dynamic hall, if you're watching this and you are just getting started with the HX Stomp, this is one of my favorite reverbs that you don't even have to touch. Sometimes I make some tweaks, but this one sounds really good. It's really nice. I always make sure I turn the trails on. Sometimes I like to take the diffusion all the way up. Then you can mess with this 10 meter, 20 meter, 30 meter. It's like different size rooms. Now, before we get too far, one thing I might not keep it in this preset, but I want to show you something I've been doing lately. I just talked about this in another video, is that I've been using the retro reel to bring a bit of grit and realness to an amp. If you put it right after the amp, bring the wow and flutter kind of down, maybe just right below 1, but bring the saturation up somewhere around 2. Slow this down, and I think you can leave everything else about where it is. Now, technically it's louder, so it may sound like it sounds better, but it gives it a bit of warmness. And to some amps, it brings in a lot of low end. I say a lot of it low end, some low end. So you could also use this low cut if you need to, but I really love the way that sounds. And another trick I've been doing right after that, you should do this on the Helix where I have room to do all this, is go to my EQ right here, make sure it's stereo for this, and I go to the low and high shelf and put the low frequency at about, I don't know, 400 and something, and the high frequency about 500 to 600. The low frequency, I cut it a little bit, and then the high frequency boosted a little bit, and it brings a little clarity to the top. Especially on dark tones, which we have a pretty bright amp, so it's not necessarily needed, but I'll put it back on the neck pickup. So, I don't think I'm gonna do that today because I want DSP for some other amps, no, some other effects, but I just wanted to show you what I've been doing recently when I have room DSP. So if you have other effects that are outboard, like on a pedal board, you might want to try that to get this amp sounding really good. Okay, we have our reverb. Now let's get our delay. I always choose the same delay because there's a favorite one on here. It's the transistor tape. I do the same thing every time. I turn the trails on, crank the headroom up, crank the spread up, put the note sync, switch it from time to note sync by clicking that, and then I bring the scale down to 75. If you don't know, 75% of something is like a dotted of that thing. So a quarter inch, see, I'm a carpenter. A quarter note plus 75% or minus 75% of that added onto it is like a dotted eighth. It's a confusing way to say it. We just added a dotted eighth. Now, because we have such a clean tone, I do want a compressor on this. I love the kinky comp. It's kind of noisy. Let's dial that back. I love it because it has this mix knob, and I like bringing the mix down a bit. I want a quick attack, but if you keep your attack all the way, you'll kind of lose the liveliness of the beginning of your note. So I like to crank that up a bit, and then the release pretty long. Let's see without it. I love the way that sounds. Now, as you heard before, it was getting a little noisy. If it is noisy, you can just turn on right here at the main left and right, turn on the input gate. Makes everything really quiet. Now we have room for 2 drives and something here at the end that I've been doing. So let's get some drives that I like. Let's get something a little different. I mean, who doesn't love a Tube Screamer, the Timmy? Those are all the ones I normally go to. I love using the Kinky Boost. Sometimes that Kinky Boost can add a pop when it's coming on and off. I mean, I just love. That sounds really good. And a lot of times I would put a boost too, but I also want to play with a little fuzz here. Let's see if I can get, I was hoping to be able to get the dark dove. Doesn't look like I'm going to be able to. So let's play with this pocket fuzz. Let's turn off our wet effects for a second. See with it without the compressor. Let's see what it's like in front of the compressor. Now, normally you would want to keep your fuzz up the front, and that's fine if you want to do that. In this case, I want the compression of that compressor, and I think it sounds kind of cool. So we have our fuzz. And if we mix that with our overdrive with our fuzz. Let's see how noisy that is. To dial in the input gate, just take the threshold all the way down to see how loud it is. But to know how far up to do it so it doesn't gate, the gate doesn't close on your tone, you just take it to where it's too loud and then bring it up to where you can barely hear it. So with the fuzz on, that's as loud as I'm gonna be. And if you're putting a fuzz on, you're expecting to make some noise. I would even bring it down a little bit. This is with the drive on, still really quiet. I'll put that in there for fun. That sounds fun. So here's our clean tone. Love it. Let's add our wet effects. I think that sounds really cool. Other thing I like doing is taking, you could do an EQ or a dynamic, just make sure it's stereo. So we have these here. Let's do an EQ then. Stereo. And a simple EQ will work. And then just assign a foot switch to, I mean, you can use the EQ for what it is. And you could do this with another block. We could have done this right here with this level. Actually, I probably should. Let's do that. That way we can add, let's do that. That way we can add a modulation. So on this level right here, I want to use a foot switch assignment. Let's do foot switch 5 in case you have a foot switch 4 and 5 hooked up. Let's go over here to it. And the minimum level is going to be 0. And then we're going to give ourselves a pure 4 decibel clean boost for times where we just need to punch through the mix a little bit more. Maybe somebody turned you down on accident. You're like, well, I need 4 more dB. So I like to have this as a secret weapon. So we're going to save that right there. Our foot switch 5 will toggle us right at the end of our chain for extra clean dB of volume without having to reach down and set our output. I like not doing it on the output block so that if I show up and they're like, hey, can you give me like 10 more dB? You can use your output block for that. If they're like, hey, you're way too hot, bring it down a lot. You can go infinitely down, right? And so I like leaving this free. You could assign stuff there, no big deal, but that's why I don't. Let's put that back at 0. Let's use some modulation, maybe. Yeah, we're not going to get any stereo modulation. I mean, we could, but let's go back to mono and see what's available. Legacy, anything, just tremolo. I wanted something more than tremolo. This beat clop trim is pretty cool if you just set all these at 2. And we're going to put this before the delay and reverb. It's all the way up. The depth is all the way up. I like setting this to note sync and putting up like 8s or even 16ths. Now, one thing I'm looking for right here is to see how much volume suck there is when I turn on the tremolo. Because it's dipping our volume in and out, it may seem like your volume gets less when you engage it. So you could increase this if you want. We'll just put it up 1 dB, save that. And that way, when we engage it, I love that. Okay, let's make some foot switch assignments real quick. I am going to want to toggle on and off these overdrives for sure independently so I can have the max amount of flexibility there. I am going to want to toggle on and off this right here. I'll put that on foot switch 4. Foot switch 3 is going to be tuner unless it's not. So we're going to act like it's not. And I'm going to do something to the delay and reverb. You could just leave the delay and reverb like it is, but we are going to up and down the mix. So on this foot switch 3, the mix on the delay and the mix on the reverb. We're at 39. We're going to go 39 to 50 and then 39 to 50 over here as well. Or 40 to 50. So the mix here was 39 to 50. And then the mix on the delay, 40 to 50. Boom. That way when I hit that toggle switch, they'll go up and down and it'll be more wet. And this would be for like swells. we still hear a bit of that noise, needing more of that noise gate. So I'm gonna turn it back up. And then we have our fuzz here if we want it. Very cool. I love that right there. That is very usable for me. We've done all of our foot switches. Now the only other thing I would do would be to come down here on the note sync, right click, and let this be controlled via snapshots. If I wanted to change the note sync, like say I wanted, say on song 1, I want quarter, but on song 2, I want that to be an 1/8. And I'll save that. And on song 3, I just want dotted 1/8. I'll also do that to the scale. That way on snapshot 3, I could take the scale all the way to 100. Snapshot 2. Snapshot 1. And then the last thing I like to do is go through my snapshots and make sure that everything is correct. These amps are exactly the same. One thing we could do to one of these amps, I forgot to say this earlier, to bring a little bit of width, is to change this mic right here. Because we're pan left and right, the slight subtle changes, and you could even EQ the amp a little differently if you wanted to. Just make sure that whatever you do, you adjust the level if it seems to be like if you're reading, oh, one side is louder than the other. And that'll just bring a little bit of character. Then, like I said, the last thing I like to do is make sure everything is where I like it. Right now, the mix is up, so I'm gonna save it with it down. So this is just our clean channel. Snapshot 2, everything is where I want it to be, but these drives came on and this came on. We'll save that. If you don't want those to come on and off via snapshots, you just right click and say snapshot bypass. And since we have foot switches controlling all those, I'll do that. See, there's no check mark. That way they won't come on on a snapshot if you're like, wow, it keeps changing on me. That's how you fix that. Snapshot 3, quarter. I think I wanted that to be a dotted 1/8. I think it moved. And wanted this to be way up here. Yeah, that's what I want. Awesome. If you found this video helpful, share it and check out the Expanse pack. Help support this channel. I'd really appreciate it. See you in the next video. Bye.